It is unapologetically silly.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. And the best part of it being dumb, it's dumb for an hour and 27 minutes.
So short.
Okay. So it's in and out like a wet fart, man. It's gone before you know it, and it starts out ridiculous. The white zone is for loading and unloading of passengers only. No, the red zone is for the loading and unloading of passengers only. Well, it's always been the white zone for loading and unloading. And here you go again, Jan, with this loading and unloading shit.
You just want an abortion.
Yeah, like what? You just why don't you just say it? You want me to have an abortion?
Well,
what?
If it's safe and sensible, then yes, it's a practical thing to do.
Wait, dude, we're talking about unloading passengers, man.
And you know what I love too is when I was watching this with Megan, what she said that we kind of miss in films where. And I don't want to bag on any of these movies because they were highly successful. The Judd Apatow or the Will Ferrell films with all the improv. Right. What I like about the Zaz Brothers movies or successful parodies or like a Wes Anderson comedy or Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove. In this film, they had to create the newsstand with wacky materials and modern sperm. They had to build. They came up with the gags. The Jesus on the counter. They had to build
world building.
Yeah, world building. And then you had to have the fish gag. These were a lot of jokes that obviously scripts are written. That's kind of, I'm not saying scripts aren't written. They don't show up and go, all right, guys. But they wrote jokes. They built props for those jokes. And then they executed those jokes on set. And I love that because it doesn't, yes, there are happy accidents on set. You do find a character when they got Julie Hagerty, I bet you that they realized how much gold they had with her. And so they built that around her. And, but you have to build these gags. You have to, the guitar bit, they were going to bring in an artist, but they couldn't get, due to the rights, they couldn't have the nun play the music. So then the stewardess who played music drove to meet Zaz. Then she played them a cassette in their Volvo and they listened to it in their car so she could perform her music. But they're still happy accidents, but they still had that scene where they pull the plug out and she makes the face, and they have James Hong stabbing himself. You have the noose.
Yes.
These are all jokes that they wrote, like the Jell-O. I mean, it's so stupid and childish that they wrote that, but it's, I don't know. I just love the days in Hot Shots Part 2 where just the silly gags that they had and the chicken bow and arrow and I just love that you put these thoughts in advance of the film and then you build props for them for a 3-second sight gag. That's just an art. I hate saying this, but I just miss that art. I miss the good parody gag that you had to write, build the props, execute for a second, break it down.
Well, this is just reckless speculation here. There could be just this idea. Well, I'm funny. I don't need your script.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make some shit up on the spot here. I'm just gonna riff with these guys and see what happens. But you get that series Archer, the cartoon.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Jessica Walter. By the way,
so cool. She was the best.
You get stuff like Archer, where Archer it doesn't seem like it's unscripted. What happens is there is guys just end up yelling at each other or just trying to one-up each other or insult each other with a lot of the ad-lib things, And there's a point where it's funny, like in Talladega Nights, where they're ad-libbing stuff and they're just ad-libbing these insults, and it gets funny and it gets a little personal, but it pulls back. And then there are other times where it just devolves into people yelling at each other, like the bad seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm,
Yeah.
And so, yes, hey, these guys are geniuses. They ad-lib everything. Yeah, but was that funny? You know what I mean? It's funny to them, but did they care that anybody else might find it funny or not? And this is the dilemma with ad-lib and everything. Not everybody is awesome at it, and even the people who are awesome at it, sometimes can we just get to the point?
Yeah. No, it's kind of tough on the crew too, because I did a movie with a lot of improv, and I was in charge of all the cars that were circling around the block for it. And so if you had a pattern, if you had people, okay, they say their lines and then we stop and I can reset. But then they would just keep going on with ad-lib lines. And when you're driving around an Atlanta block with only 40 cabs and you have to make it look like a busy New York street with only 40 cabs, it's a lot easier to do when there's script when there's a script and you can stick to a pattern. But it got ugly, man. They're like, where are all the cars at? I'm like, well, you've been improvising for 10 minutes. So I think that's where my annoyance of improv came from. And also I love Edgar Wright's films too, where like Hot Fuzz, you have a mustache. Yeah, I know. Or
yes,
just the jokes that they had to build and shoot and storyboard. That's what I like. I like the carefully crafted comedy. That's kind of what I'm into. Yeah.
Subtlety, man. Subtlety.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think, Mark? You're an adult walking through an airport in the 1980s, and suddenly a man from the Church of Consciousness comes up to you. Do you A, take his pamphlet, or just punch the holy shit out of him?
Beat him all up.
Trying to get to a plane.
Didn't they have one guy like Christians for Jewish for Christian people or something?
Yes. It's Jews for Christians.
Yeah.
Scientology.
And he's just whomping on all of them. Oh, you know that car that Robert Stack drove? That was actually the car of I always forget his name. Robert Hays. That was Robert Hayes' car.
Robert Hayes.
And he got paid to have that car be featured in the movie.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Here's a fun Robert Hayes fact. He did the voice of the Iron Man cartoon in the 90s.
Oh, nice.
Totally. He was Tony Stark.
Oh, I bet you love that.
Oh, God. That was so awesome. Smoking or not smoking? Smoking. And they give him a ticket that's on fire.
Oh, yeah. What a pun.
It's distracting because when I was a kid watching the Iron Man cartoon, I had already seen Airplane 1,000 times and I didn't understand it as much. But his voice is very recognizable.
I had never watched. Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry, man.
No, it's no
Airplane
problem.
2. Airplane 2.
Yes.
Is it good?
Okay. Airplane 2 is Control-C, Control-V of Airplane. And so you get, unfortunately, the law of diminishing returns. However, if you like Hot Shots 1 and 2, you'll like Airplane 2. And then also Airplane 2 just has William Shatner in it, man. And he asked the question, there are so many lights. What do these lights do? They're blinking and flashing and blinking and flashing. And then he just goes down the hole and the music. And they're like, okay, calm down.
All right, I'm going to have to watch this. I'm going to have to go check this movie out because I still haven't watched it.
Airplane 2 is fine, man. Airplane 2 is fine.
Oh, and Julie's in it? And Lloyd Bridges is in it?
Sonny Bono's a terrorist, for Christ's sake. I mean, come on.
Oh, Rip Torn. He'll be funny. He could be dry.
Yes. Rip Torn is working with Lloyd Bridges as the insane people on the ground trying to get them to land the plane correctly on the moon. Just bizarre.
All right. So I can watch this. This will be good.
Yes.
Hey, so how about this? Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will talk more Airplane. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. And this reminded me of this time, Norbert, where you and I were in the Peace Corps, and we went to an island, and we taught the people there how to play basketball because they didn't have a physical exercise regime set up yet, and we sold them Tupperware.
Yes. They were not familiar with the rules, but once they picked it up, they took to it right away. Yes, it was very interesting.
Oh my God.
Here's another one for you.
So stupid.
Here's another one for you. You'd better tell the captain we've got to land as soon as we can. This woman has to be gotten to a hospital. A hospital? What is it? It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now.
Oh, man. And then everyone just lines up to beat that lady up.
They do that in every movie, and it's funny to me every time. I don't care. That is a brilliant joke setup and punchline every single time.
In Naked Gun 33 1/3, when he goes up to Anna Nicole Smith and he's like, cigarette? Yes, I know. Like, it gets me. And even Police Squad, it's just the joke never fails to not hit. And also Fred Ward is in that movie, which makes me happy.
Oh, God. Yo, Fred Ward. I always wish that Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins took off. Because I love Fred Ward. He seemed like a cool guy, and he's just down for anything, you know? Mm-hmm. Between Remo Williams and
Tremors.
That movie and Tremors. He seems like a cool cat.
He's been in good movies. Tremors works because of his chemistry with Kevin Bacon.
100%. You couldn't substitute those two guys. Either one of them.
Mm-mm. They're perfect together. I'm telling you, I think Tremors is dang near perfect because where Kevin Bacon's peeing in the beginning of that movie, that's where the tremor flies out, the graboid later in the film. Like they really come back and play a lot of the same bits, and they set up the Chekhov's Coke machine, the Chekhov's pogo stick. It's and the guns and it's so good. And then they also put the guns in the thing to make the noise, and I love drummers.
Here's another one for you, Mark. What was it that we had for dinner tonight? Well, we had a choice of steak or fish. Yes, I remember. I had lasagna.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I had lasagna.
I don't care if this podcast is just airplane quotes. If we could just read the whole script, I would be happy. There's nothing wrong with this movie. Nothing!
Just go on IMDb and just read the quotes in a line.
And if any of these quotes irritates you, you know what? Just don't ever talk to me.
And remember when they're interviewing Johnny and someone's just holding an ice cream cone? That's a joke. That's something you could miss. You could just not see that. It's just
the reporters come into the room. All right, guys, let's take some pictures, and they start stealing.
Oh no! Yeah.
Oh man.
Do you think this movie was successful? Because I have a theory where I think the best TNT, TBS, FX, Comedy Central movies. If you think about what I remember playing on TV a lot were Monty Python, The Holy Grail, Airplane, and they're almost, there's little episodes in each that are funny. Their narratives are tied together, but there's bits throughout that you could turn on halfway through and you're like, oh, this bit's coming up. Oh, wait, there's other bits coming up. Oh, wait, this bit's coming up. And then it's done. It's one of those films where Airplane, you could come in an hour in, have 20 minutes left and just sit there, and because there's some good bits coming up that you can watch. Like Monty Python, it's just, you don't have to get enraptured in the narrative of Airplane because it's just so silly and there's so many little bits in it that you can tune in anytime and just enjoy it. Do you think that's a big reason why? Like, okay, if you think about modern day comedies, Knocked Up was huge, or I don't know, Talladega Nights, these kind of films. Like Knocked Up, Seth Rogen gets Katherine Heigl pregnant. They try to make it work. They break up. They get back together. Or just there's, Anchorman, he loses his job, then he has to come back, and this, that, and the other. Step Brothers, they get mad at their parents. They got to grow up. Like that, it's hard for me to sit down and just watch those movies. It's easier for me to sit down and watch a movie that just like an Airplane or a Holy Grail or a Knight's Tale, where there's just no major stakes in it. There's no major life lessons.
They're not trying to teach you anything.
Yeah, totally. Evolution. Like, I love that movie, Evolution. I think Orlando Jones and Duchovny are so good in that movie. But there's what's up?
I was just going to say, I fight people when they tell me that movie sucks.
Oh, dude.
It's basically, it's the Ghostbusters 3 that we always wanted, quite honestly.
It annoys me that you got Julianne Moore falling down all over the place, and
it was adorable.
Yeah, and Orlando Jones, he's just so funny in that. Like, he's just a really lecherous coach, though. He's like, I shower with my players, but
yes, I forgot about that.
Took you, rub some funk on it, and then I need some ice cream. It's for my ass. It's just, I find the most rewatchable movies for me are no one goes through major catastrophes in this movie. They just sort of, they're hangout pictures, and that's
no.
That's Everybody Wants Some, I think, is perfect. Like, it's just a hangout picture.
Exactly. You don't want every movie to be a goddamn dissertation on the problems in modern life. Sometimes you just want to put something on and just laugh for an hour and 27 minutes. Here's a question for you. David Letterman was initially going to be Ted Stryker.
Oh, yeah.
You think David Letterman nails this in the same way as Robert Hays?
Okay, Robert Hays. Okay, Letterman, the way Letterman plays it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I just see him, whenever he told his jokes, he always seemed somewhat satisfied with himself. Very flat, very dry, but he had this very self-aware knowledge to his humor. I think these movies work best when you have a Charlie Sheen from Hot Shots, or Robert Hays or Julie Hagerty, who can say it and be completely earnest in the delivery.
That's the word.
I don't know if Letterman could be earnest in his delivery.
It would just be snark the entire time.
Yeah, and that would be oppressive, right? That would wreck the joke, because this hinges on earnestness, like the Hagerty, Hagerty earnestness. I mean, Charlie Sheen, I think, was excellent at doing it. I think, as much as I love Cary Ells, I like him a lot in Robin Hood. I like him a lot in Hot Shots, but he does have that certain snark to him He's very funny.
Yeah, Carrie does absolutely, and it's crazy. It's crazy too, knowing about Charlie Sheen's actual personality in life, how he